Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Chris, and welcome back to once again another episode of Madden Maniac Previews. How is everyone doing today? Doing well? Let us get into the start of the second half of this series. We're already through 8 episodes, and I mean, I guess that makes sense because we are halfway. We're 8 days in, and we have 8 days left until at least until Wednesday comes around when we do the podcast, and then Thursday when we have our grand kickoff. The NFL season kicks off right there. It'll be exciting and fun, and I'm looking forward to it as always. Let's go ahead and jump into this game here. It's a battle between two West Coast teams, and it is also of course, very interestingly, two teams yet again that played each other in the preseason. So you're going to see a little bit of what you've seen before. They're also playing, I believe, during the regular season as well. So there you go. Although, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, maybe they did not play this preseason. Did they? No, they did. They played in week 2. They did. I had to think about that. But yes, that is a thing that actually happened. So yeah, let's talk about these two teams, and it's weird because I think a few years ago you'd look at these two teams and you might have you'd have the opposite opinion that you would have now. But at this moment, things are kind of weird for both of these franchises in completely different ways. And I look at this. We're gonna start with the Chargers, of course, and I look at the Chargers team as we know it right now. And this is a team that I think is a lock or close to it for the AFC West title. Because I think the other 3 teams right now in that division, barring something really incredible, and for the other 3 teams, and then this team falling apart injury-wise, which I guess could happen. It's not completely out of the question. But if the roster stood as they did all season long with like very few changes, I really think this team has a good shot at making the playoffs, at least as a wild card, if not as a divisional champion. And let's talk about that. Why do I feel like this? I think that almost at every single position group with this team, there is improvement. There is something that to be looking forward to. Not that fumble that you just saw on the screen, but there is something to look forward to. And it starts with the guy that remains at the forefront, and that is Phillip Rivers. He is getting up there in age. Obviously, the guy is very much, there's probably not a lot of years left with Phillip Rivers as the quarterback of the Chargers, but he's playing pretty good. He's moving around the pocket pretty well. He's throwing the balls that he should. He is performing at what a Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback should play at. But the problem for all these years is that as close as he would get to the Super Bowl, he would just miss it, and then there are just times, especially in the recent seasons, where the roster just completely gets destroyed injury-wise, or the roster's not deep enough, where he is just has not been able to make it to the big dance. And that's such a heartbreaking thing for a franchise that has been waiting for a Super Bowl for many years and has probably the best quarterback that they've had in their history of the franchise. And the fact that he may not actually end up making it and winning a championship is just really disappointing, like Dan Fouts all over again. So let's talk about what could be different this year. First of all, Melvin Gordon, I think, has proven himself to be a reliable running back in the league. So you don't have to worry about him. You also have Austin Eckler, who, as a backup role, the guy who comes in every once in a while, has also played very well. Alright, let's look at the receiving core. Keenan Allen is the star of that wide receiving core, and has been playing a phenomenal game for quite a few years. Despite the injuries that have happened to him, he is still a very, very good player. You have Travis Benjamin and Mike Williams. Let's talk individually. Travis Benjamin entering his 3rd year as a Charger. has a lot of improvement still to do, but he is a very good deep threat for this team. And Mike Williams, this is the guy that they drafted last year. Did not show a lot last year because of injury, but he's coming now fully healthy, and he has made plays this offseason, or this preseason, that make you think that maybe, just maybe, this could be a triple threat at the wide receiver position alone. And of course, Tyrell Williams, who's right now the starter, he's played very well. So you have these guys, all these guys that are in the mix. It's insane. You have J.J. Jones, who's a really good special teamer. This is a great group. The tight end position, they get rid of Antonio Gates. It was a kind of thinking, that he might come back after, unfortunately, Hunter Henry going down with an ACL injury earlier this offseason. You thought that he would come back. That has not happened yet. It might still happen, but right now you're going with Virgil Green. The guy hasn't really proven to be the best tight end out there, but he has been a starter at various places, including, or not various places, but he's been a starter for the Broncos for quite some time. And though he hasn't been like a star tight end, he's going to alleviate some pressure, and it won't be the end of the world because of the fact that the rest of the receiving core is very, very good. I think my only concern for this offense right now would mostly lie in the offensive line, but even with that being said, you bring Mike Pouncey over from Miami, who was one of the best centers in the league when he's healthy. He ends up taking that center spot. You have Dan Feeney, who's entering his second year. You have Russell Okung at left tackle, who, though he's been to a few teams, bounced around, he has been a solid starter at the left tackle position. There's been times where he's been the best player on an offensive line that was kind of shitty. And on the other side, the right side, you have Michael Schofield, and you have Joe Barksdale. Two guys that not exactly high on, but I think that the other presence on the offensive line will make it better. But I think that right side is what I'm a little worried about still. I would be very curious about to see how that ends up developing as the season goes on, how they kind of cycle through offensive linemen. That's my only big concern with the offense, though. I think as a whole, though, I very, very much like what's happening with this Chargers offense. And then let's talk about the defense. And the two names that you're going to hear all season long, hopefully, is Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. These guys are the pass rushers. They're the main tacklers in the field. They're like the main guys that you're always going to hear that are going to be the ones that stop the play. Joey Bosa specifically being the pass rusher, and Melvin Ingram basically doing anything. He can stop anything that is that the offense tries to produce. He is very good. In terms of the rest of the defensive line, you have Brandon Mebane, who was great with Seattle. Hasn't really performed too well with the Chargers, but he's played well enough that it's been a pretty solid group. Corey Leggett. I cannot pronounce his last name, but has been a starter with the team, and he's a first-round draft pick from 2011. He's just been one of those staples for the team. And then you have, in the linebacking core, you have the return, again, of Denzel Perryman. You have Jadavis Brown, who's played very well as well. Kaiser White has been playing very well. Uchenna Nwosu, or another rookie, who's playing very well out of USC. Kyle Emmanuel right now starting over him, but he himself also not as great, but has been playing pretty well. So that front seven is loaded. It's not like the big name talent, but certainly with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram leading the way, it's a solid group. The secondary you would be concerned about, especially considering what's been happening with that team, with Jason Verrett going down earlier this season, Jalen Watkins as well going down earlier this offseason, and it's, you worry about this team and the injury bug that they have. But right now, who's starting? You have Casey Hayward, who I think has great potential to still be one of the main important corners in the league. You have Jaleel Adai, who has been who played well, especially in the absence of key secondary members. You have Derwin James, who's expected to start week 1. He's going to overtake Rayshon Jenkins. So Derwin James, like, this guy's going to be so much fun to watch. He's already been fun to watch in the preseason. And you have Trevor Williams right now starting at cornerback. But that secondary, despite its main loss, which I think in Jason Verrett, it's going to be very tough to come back from losing him. But with Derwin James and Casey Hayward, they're going to be two primary playmakers that are going to make this team better. So, do I sound like I'm hyped on the on the Chargers? Because I am. I legit think that this team has what it takes to not only win the wild card and win the division. I think it can go deep. They have a deep enough roster. The problem with this team, though, and it just is the core of this franchise as a whole, is a lot of outside forces. You have the concern of the injury bug. The Chargers, for the last few years, no matter who the coach is, it has been a constant struggle with keeping players healthy and on the field, and it has led to them losing games and especially, like, even as simple as the kicker situation too. That's more of a roster issue, but there was times last year that the kicking problem was one of the main reasons why they were losing games. It seems like I'm gonna go with a Roberto Aguayo by preseason cuts. I'm not entirely sure. It's him. I think it's Caleb Sturgis right now that's competing, but they really like Aguayo. We'll see how that battle slip goes out. I don't think they've made a complete decision on that yet. But that's been a concern. You have the case of your temporary home at the StubHub Center. Look, everyone's been praising it, like, it's so cool playing in this stadium because it's like not filled. It's not like these huge stadiums. It's like a quaint little stadium where people can just fill the stands, and it's just a great experience. Like, all right, great, but how does that impact the game on the field? Because the unfortunate thing with the Chargers is that when they moved away from San Diego, they lost a lot of fans. It's just, I mean, it's the fact of any major franchise moving away that you're going to alienate the fans that were by your side and that were local, that don't want to go to a rival city in Los Angeles to root for you, and they don't want you to be referred to as the Los Angeles Chargers. By the way, this is just, I've said this before, I think they royally fucked up that move. I think the NFL really fucked up. Because I think the Rams and the Raiders were the perfect teams to have in LA. You did not need to have the Chargers go there. They could have figured out something in San Diego, or they could have been the ones going to Las Vegas or somewhere else. It makes no sense to me that they had the Chargers go to LA and then pick the Raiders to Las Vegas. Why? It makes literally no sense. Where the majority of LA, I know everyone's like, oh well, it's a melting pot of NFL fans and all that. Well, okay, but guess what? Which team has been there and was the most loved there during their existence? It was the Raiders. The LA Raiders were beloved down there. Why are you not going to consider that when they make the bid to do so? It made no sense to me then, and it still does not make any sense to me now. So I am sorry, San Diego, and I'm sorry that you guys have to go through that horrible move, and I hope one day you'll get a team back. And of course, the same goes to St. Louis and Oakland. You don't want to lose teams either, but LA, fucking, it's gonna steal all your teams. But regardless, you alienate those fans, and now you have half the stadium is filled with people who are still dedicated to the Chargers, and then half of it's filled with teams with with fans that are from teams that you're supposed to not have take over the entire stadium. Like, you're supposed to have majority Chargers, but then during the Raiders games, you're gonna have mostly Raider fans in that stadium because that's Raiders country that you're basically living in right now. You don't have the Chargers have right now the weakest fan base. That's just the case right now because they haven't made it to the playoffs yet, and they're still trying to build from the ground up. Especially, I think the San Diego divorce was much more ugly than St. Louis. At least there was a relationship with the Rams in Los Angeles at some point. The Chargers were there for one fucking year in the 70s or the 60s or whatever it was. And I legit think that's a shame. By the way, I know I should be talking about this team right now, but it's going to be a factor. This not having a concrete home field advantage is going to be a factor for this team, and that mixed with the injuries, mixed with also and obviously the kicker thing that I was talking about, and also Anthony Lynn. Look, he's been through 1 year as the head coach. I'm not gonna sit here and try to just relentlessly shit on him at all. He needs to have a second year in his belt, but thus far, his first year under the team has a lot of weird play calls that ended up not working in the Chargers' favor overall, and I am very concerned, and I'm hoping that he has grown and he's become better for the franchise. That's my other concern. So it's a lot of weird factors with me for the Chargers. That's all the pessimism that I can really say about this team. That all the things I can have, and also I don't think they're necessarily too deep on the offensive line, and then of course injuries at the secondary position. Also and at tight end, all kind of they kind of all rear its ugly head. But this team has overcome that before. Look, I mean, regardless of how Anthony Lynn has done, he also still had this team 9-3 down the stretch. Like, that's pretty fucking good. So this team can do it. They can overcome all this weird adversity I'm throwing at them right now. They can overcome all the ridiculous shit that may end up affecting their team. But I think there is that kind of weird curse that you want to try to that I need to see them overcome, because every year it feels like we're hyping the Chargers in the offseason, and then when week 4 comes and they have a shitty record, you're like, well, I guess we're wrong. And it happens every fucking year. The Chargers should have been in the playoffs last year. They could have made it, and because they didn't, that storyline is still existent. We're hyped about the Chargers, but they haven't been to the playoffs since 2013. They need to get there this year. So this is the leap. This is where they have to get to. And again, I think that compare their team to the rest of the AFC West right now, I think that they're not in a bad position. Let's talk about the schedule real quick, because they open up against the Chiefs at home. What does that mean anymore for the Chargers? I'm not too sure, but they're going to open up at home if it matters. And then from there, they play the Buffalo Bills, which is a really easy game. Sorry, Bills fans. I'm going to get to you. I'm going to slaughter them. This is going to be bad. But they have to face the Rams. That's going to be difficult. And then they have to face the Niners, which is also going to be, which probably will also be difficult. But we'll see. At least you're hosting the Niners at that point. They have to face the Raiders twice. That'll probably be a split series, if not the Raiders. I think the Chargers could win both games, but it could be. I think it leans more towards them splitting. Then you have the Browns. Probably could beat the Browns. Then you have the Titans. The Titans, to me, I like their team. Don't like them as much as the Chargers. I could see them beating them. The Seahawks. Sorry, Seahawks fans. We're going to talk about you guys in a second. But I think the Chargers could beat you as well. I think they can sweep the Broncos. I think they can beat the Cardinals. Steelers might be difficult. I think you beat the Bengals. The Chiefs again. I'm thinking split series, but I'm leaning towards Chargers sweeping as well. Ravens. That's a difficult one. I can't really say for certain right now how I feel about that one, but that's also way later in the season. You close out against the Broncos. So overall, that's not a bad schedule at all, though. There should be, and they deserve a lot of credit and a lot of hype. But they have to prove it this year. And that first game against the Chiefs, which by the way, I know that the CBS doesn't have the doubleheader the first week, but that 4 o'clock game is gonna be shown in a lot of homes, including my own, since I live in the New York metropolitan area, and the Giants are hogging the 1 p.m. slot, and there would be no game airing opposite of it. CBS, the only 4 o'clock game on CBS will be Chiefs Chargers. So in front of a lot of the country, the Chargers are going to be playing, and they're going to have to show the world in that big spot against the reigning divisional rivals that kicked you out of the playoffs last year. You got to show them that you are ready to fucking win and get to the playoffs and make it big. I have faith in the team. Again, all the hesitations are really just obscure factors, but it has affected them in the past. This year they have the ability and the talent on the roster to do it and overcome it. I think I'm a little bit more hesitant because they have the injuries that they have already, but this team could make a run in the playoffs. I don't know about Super Bowl. I would like Super Bowl. I mean, it would be a different AFC champion at that point. But I think that it would be interesting to see how far they can go. I think they could. I think they could make it go to a distance for sure. I don't want. I did like predictions. Like I did the practice round of the predictions prior to the preseason, and I said the Chargers. I put the Chargers as my AFC champion because, as like it may not actually happen, but the hype's there. I don't really truly believe that right now, but it wouldn't shock me, and I hope that they do it. It would be great to see Phillip Rivers get a shot at the big dance, even if that means that even if he doesn't win. But, I mean, if he gets there, you're going to want to root for him, Like, the Chargers, to me, it's a hard team not to root for because you want... It's a hard team... Yeah, it's a hard team not to root for because of the fact that Phillip Rivers is the one guy that has not gotten a ring from his draft class in terms of Big Ben and Eli. And he's probably better than both of them. The truth of the matter is... I think, at least. So, that's my take. Please, Chargers, for the sake of the for the sake of the AFC, please be a contender this year. Get in the mix. Make things interesting, stir things up. Why not? All that. All right, we're gonna be talking about the Seahawks in just a second, but since we have a shortened halftime, I'm gonna get right to the question. And you know the answer already. Who do I think between the Chargers and the Seahawks most likely to make the playoffs? It's the Chargers. I don't have to go into the reasons why. I've already explained it many times. But we're going to talk about the Seahawks once the end of the second half comes, which is counting down. It's taking a while. They're going to punt, I guess. Or at least they're going to run the clock out here. I'd rather that. That would be nice. Okay. That's preferable. All right. Here we go. Let's talk about the Seahawks. Let's let them kick it off here. I'm just going to take a quick swig of water. All right. So here we go. The Seattle Seahawks this year. What has become of this team? It is very interesting. I'm not even going to look at the roster right now because that's usually what I do, but I just want to kind of talk openly. I remember in 2013 when I was first getting into football. I don't know if anyone follows Gold Glove TV. He's a famous Let's Player streamer, mainly. And I started following him 2012, 2013. But regardless, he kept on talking all the time about his Seahawks because he loves the Seahawks very much. And I don't know, I was fascinated by football prior to him even bringing that up, and I was, I was trying to learn about the game from watching Giants and Jets games. And then all of a sudden, I see so many people talking about the Seahawks, and the Seahawks having this great year, and especially watching Gold Glove, who is his fucking mind, because the Seahawks are having an amazing year. And that really made this, watching the playoffs in 2013, fascinating, because I was rooting for the Seahawks, because I wanted to see joy in the eyes of my, some of my favorite YouTubers, of some of the people in my life who are also Seahawks fans. Of course, they could have also been bandwagon fans, but regardless, they're rooting for them, and I want them to be happy, so I don't really give a shit about bandwagon or not. So I was rooting for them, and they won the whole thing, and in a kind of anticlimactic way, but they did it, and it was just the coolest thing, and it's the Seahawks. The Seahawks could have been dynasty, but that team was what introduced me and it really made me fall in love with football. I love it, and I love the team so much for what they did. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, I'm the biggest fan, but I respect that team because it really introduced me to what really cool, good teams could be. And literally, 4-5 years later, it's gone. The team that we know it, at least, a lot of it is gone. And it starts with what made this team great, which was the secondary. Richard Sherman, gone in free agency. Cam Chancellor, gone, unfortunately, to an injury, season-ending injury. Earl Thomas might as well be gone at this point. I don't know if last minute he's going to decide to come and join this team, or if there's going to be a last-second, contract extension that he's been waiting for. I don't know, but it feels like he's good. He's as good as gone as well. Although I guess the question is maybe they'll try a same tactic that they did Cam a few years ago, where they just kind of let him sit out and then he decides week 3 of the regular season, all right, I'll come and join you guys, whatever. But that team, for what we knew of it, at least that Legion of Boom, that foundation is gone, and that's been replaced by Shaquille Griffin, Bradley McDougald, McDougald, there you go, Tedrick Thompson, and Byron Maxwell. Now, Byron Maxwell has been on this team before, recognizable face of the team, and then you have Tedrick Thompson, who I'm not too familiar with. I think he's a newer face on the team overall. They keep on showing this goddamn pylon cam. This is the second time this season or this series that's happened. Shaquille Griffin, who in his few starts has shown that he can play well. Not at the level that we've seen the Legion of Boom, but he's getting there. I like Bradley McDougald too. He made some good plays down the stretch that I really liked of 2017. But it is just so surreal to see. That's going to be just a weird secondary to watch next year because it's just no one that you're used to. Like you're like, well, it's just you're not expecting any of them, that you, at least that you used to, at least to know, it's crazy. Then you, of course, you have the defensive line too. Michael Bennett, gone via trade to the Eagles. Cliff Averill. There you go. He's gone, also to a season-ending injury, or career-ending injury. By the way, I'm sorry. Chancellor and Averill. I think I said season-ending. It's career-ending. Like, they're retired. They're done. Which, in a way, I don't think the Seahawks were really expecting. You don't expect those career-ending injuries. I don't know what would have happened if they did get healthy, if they would have been cut as well, or traded or whatever. But those 5 players, that was a big core of that Super Bowl 48 team, and that has just been washed away now and replaced. Look at the defensive line now. Brandon Jackson, Jaron Reed, Nazir Jones, Frank Clark. Now, those are... I don't even know what to say about any of them. I mean, I know that Jaron Reed, he's been on and off. Frank Clark, I'm not a big fan of him personality-wise, but he's stepped up a few times. But, I mean, none of them have really been, like, I've not been over the top about. Although Rasheem Green, who is deep on the depth chart right now, in his preseason stuff, he's been good. A lot of USC defenders that I like, going back to Nwuzu from the Chargers as well. But it's different, and I'm concerned about them on that front. And then you have the linebacking core, which looks like the most stable of this group. And I like Burkavius Bingo. I really like him being there. And, of course, the backup of Shaquem Griffin. He's going to be such a great story and so much fun to watch in special teams this year. And whenever he's playing regular defense, taking some snaps, he's going to be awesome. He's all over the fucking field. He's tackling everyone. He's such a good player. I'm so excited to see him succeed. I think a lot of people are. There's probably people who are sick of the story, which, in that case, fuck you. You don't have to listen to it. Whatever. But the stars of this defense are going to be Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright. Now, unfortunately, KJ Wright is injured. He's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks. I forget what the injury specifically is. I don't have that in front of me, but he's injured. So, he's going to be out for a little bit. But that doesn't mean he's not going to contribute later in the season. Bobby Wagner is your star. He is the guy that if there's any hope for the Seahawks team making a run at all this year, it's going to be him leading the way for the Seahawks team. And again, you gotta trust the young talent on the team, see how much they have developed. I'm not gonna count this. I can never count the Pete Carroll Seahawks out. I can't. I think he's too good of a coach, and I think the John Schneider, he's too good of a general manager for me to really be like, yeah, well, whatever. This team's done. As good as done for. But I think it's fair for me to ask what this team does not have anything here that screams to me Super Bowl contender or even playoff contender right now. But again, that shit could change as the season goes on. And especially when you get to the current wide receiver unit for this. We're going backwards here, so we just touched the defense. Now let's go to the offense. I will talk about Russell Wilson in a second. I don't even think I need to talk about him, but I guess I could talk about him now. There is no one in this league that right now has to carry his team like Russell Wilson and his Seahawks. There's no one in this team in this league at all. I know Aaron Rodgers is kind of that guy, and I know there's a few other quarterbacks out there that you could be like, well, he's kind of the center point of this team. Don't have him, you don't have a championship at all. And of course Brady, I guess. But I think Brady has more talent around him. That's the thing. I think the Patriots generally have more talent. But I think that Russell Wilson is going to have a fucking year. And you got to hope that he is going to be strong against the offensive line, although I will say this, compared to recent years where the offensive line looks like it is a black hole that's ready to suck any defender in and then spit them out against Russell Wilson's body and push him to the ground. It doesn't look like that this year. That was really dramatic, but it felt like that for many years. It's not as bad because I think you have developing talent in Ethan Posick. I can't pronounce his last name, but I know him, and I know that he's playing very well as an interior lineman. Obviously, you have Dwayne Brown, who you extended, and it's a very good extension. He's been very good from the start of his career to now. Jermaine Effetti, who needs to have a big year, but he might get there. DJ Fluker, who is a good depth guy with the Giants last year. Justin Britt coming over, that's good. And I do like J.R. Sweezy, but he's deep on the depth chart. He might be cut. I did like him when he was with the Seahawks. He hasn't been that great since, but you never know. Just being honest. So that group, not as bad as it used to be, but there's still questions. You don't know for sure. Like I mean, especially I think in the interior and maybe even just the right side of the line too. They're still like, all right, well, are you gonna be able to keep him upright? But at least you have stability at the most important offensive lineman position, which is the left tackle. So that's good. Now, here's what Russell Wilson has to deal with in terms of weapons. You have Chris Carson, who is going to be the starter right now. Penny is dealing with injuries, and it's kind of led to him having a very quiet preseason for him not being out on the field. And so Chris Carson, far and away, the winner of that running back race. I gotta be honest, I don't love Chris Carson. I understand him being the starter right now. I think that they need to give Penny a shot once he's healthy and ready to go. Give him a few carries, see how he does. I think he'll develop into a good player. He was such a great player at San Diego State. Was kind of surprised he got drafted so high, but you know what? We'll see how it goes. And I do think, considering the depth of the running back position, I don't think it's gonna hurt giving him a shot at some point. And I know they will, because it's your first round draft pick. I mean, come on, you can't keep him off the field. Now, as for your weapons to throw to, right now your starters are Tyler Lockett and Jerron Brown. Jerron Brown, I've liked since his Cardinals days. He's been kind of under the radar, not really talked about a lot, but he had a few games where he was really, really needed, and he stepped up. Especially during times where the wide receiving core was kind of cut down. So he's now a starter. I don't hate that. Tyler Lockett, he's been dealing with health issues, but when he's out there, he's a very fast prospect, and a very fun guy to watch. And of course, you have Brandon Marshall. The veteran goes from the Giants to the Seahawks, and after a year where he was out with an injury, he's back and he's playing relatively well, and although he's not a tight end, he's playing very similarly to Jimmy Graham in terms of the fact that he's a big target that is hard for defenders to bring down. After that, not really too high on this group as a whole. Wish it was a little bit deeper, but oh, I didn't even realize that Keenan Reynolds was on this team. Shows how much I'm paying attention on that on the depth part. But still, I mean, he hasn't proven himself, but I just remember him from his days at Navy. But yeah, Amara Darboh, Marcus Johnson, I'm not a fan of any of those guys. And then you have the tight end position, which you got rid of Luke Wilson this offseason, in addition to Jimmy Graham. So your top two tight ends are gone. And who do you have? Nick Vannett. I've seen a few games with him, and he's not bad. He just hasn't really stood out to me. And that sucks, because you felt at least Luke Wilson had some really impact plays. And maybe by the time the regular season comes, Vanette's gonna stand out. But right now, he's not there for me. I'm not really feeling that Vanette energy. And hopefully, I will at some point. But that is a downgrade. Although I think again with Brandon Marshall there, he kind of fills the role that Jimmy Graham did have. And with the having Tyler Lockett there, that's going to help. One guy I just realized, I'm looking at the step chart right now. I don't know why I don't ever talk about Doug Baldwin. I'm looking, I'm like, wait a minute. What? So, alright, so see, this is why I should write these things down ahead of time instead of relying on the website. Our lads, I don't know what you're doing, but you do not have Doug Baldwin here. It might be because he's on the pup list. Or he's somewhere right now. Actually, he's not listed on this roster at all. What in the world? Where is he? Or is he like super deep on the roster? Oh, there he is. Like he's on like the 5th string. Okay, whatever. He's dealing with injury. He'll come back and that'll be a big help at wide receiver. Because I was just like, Jerron Brown, Tyler Lockett. I don't remember these guys being the starter, and I'm like, oh wait, fucking Doug Baldwin exists. He's a good player, and I wish I did not forget him, but he will be good, and that's going to help the wide receiver unit. So the receiving core isn't as bad as you think, but it's still not where it could be, and I think that with this team as it is right now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, this team is definitely not going to make the playoffs, because it's the Seahawks. The Seahawks team with under Pete Carroll has time and time again shown that they're going to be an impact team. They're going to be in every single game until the bitter end. And that's just the way it is. It's still not the deepest team, and it's certainly the newest team, and the team with the most need for development overall. In terms of where things can go, but it's, at least I'm talking of in the history of the Seahawks, not right now in the NFL. Clearly, there's other teams that need more development. This is but this is the most overturned roster in the Pete Carroll era, and so I'm very fascinated to see how this season turns out for them. I don't think it's going to be an utter disaster. I do think it's going to be difficult because of the fact that you have the Rams in the mix, and that you might have the Niners too. The Niners, to me, I'm worried about how deep that team is. I've talked about that in the Niners preview. I'm worried about how deep that team, on a few of the the playmakers in a few places on defense. You could still make the argument in my eyes that the Seahawks could be your second best team, barring, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo not shredding everyone up like he did at the end of the last season. If he does that, then forget it. The Seahawks are your 3 team, and that's it. But I definitely think they're gonna have a difficult time winning the division with the Rams right now leading the way, who got much better this a scary amount of better this offseason. LA should be hyped. We'll talk about the Rams though. Let's talk about the schedule. Let me pull up the Seahawks schedule real quick. I feel dumb right now. I should have realized the minute I looked at the depth chart, Doug Baldwin's not here, and he was there, just not looking hard enough. So Seahawks and Broncos. All right, that's gonna be there. I think that's a winnable game for the Seahawks. So we'll leave it there. Seahawks against Bears, again, maybe another winnable game. I think the Bears have a good... I think that games could be good. A good Monday Night Football game could be interesting. So, it's a toss-up right now. I'll lean toward the Seahawks for this preview. Got the Cowboys against the Seahawks. I think the Cowboys are a beatable team this year. They're a pretty good team. They're not great. the Seahawks could still beat them. You have the Cardinals, who I think right now, unfortunately, is the worst team on this roster in that division right now. But I don't know. A lot of this shit you never know. Rams against the Seahawks, that's gonna be a difficult one, but we'll see. Well, I don't know. Think about the Rams. What happened last year with them? They went to Seattle and absolutely mutilated them. They ripped the soul out of that fucking team. That was really scary. That was kind of scary for Seahawks fans to watch that happen. That I feel bad for the scars that might have left. But maybe they'll be able to. That could be a nice game of like revenge. That I guess you can call that the revenge game. And that's the first game of the year that you'll try to kick their ass in. Who knows? We'll see. Raiders against Raiders in London. Never been to London before. Raiders have, though. Or at least they're used to having international series that they're a part of. So Raiders might have an advantage there, but I don't know. I kind of like the Seahawks winning that. Lions, don't think that the Seahawks have a terrible chance against. Chargers, again, I think the Chargers are a better team right now. Rams, better team. Packers, even too. That's okay. That's a game I'm looking forward to. I didn't even talk about this in the Green Bay preview. Oh my God, am I looking forward to the Packers return to Seattle? That is the NFC Championship game of 2014 was by far. I think it is my favorite playoff game of all time. Of my time of watching, which is not a huge sample size, of course, but I'm telling you, that was an incredible fucking game. I remember that live tweeting it. Live tweeting is annoying, by the way. I don't like doing that anymore. But my God, I loved watching the Packers going out into this big lead, and then the Seahawks just coming roaring back. The onside kick, the Marshawn Lynch run in for the touchdown, then in the overtime deep pass to Jermaine Kearse at the end. It was just, everything was just awesome. I loved that game, and I cannot wait to see the Packers return to Seattle for the first time since that happened. That's gonna be great. That's how insane is that, though? It is the first time since the 2014 season that the Packers have been in Seattle. It's been a long time. They have Seahawks, Panthers. That might lean more towards the Panthers. Niners, Seahawks, and then Seahawks, Niners. That happens within a few weeks of each other. Could be a split series. Could be very much so. Vikings, Seahawks. No way. I'm sorry, Seahawks. Not going to happen. Chiefs, Seahawks might have a little bit of an advantage over the Chiefs defense. For sure. And then the Cardinals, Seahawks to finish it out. So, it's a doable schedule. I look, again, I feel like a lot of this offseason, I've been kind of very low on this team, not thinking they're going to go far, but you look at what they have, they're a young team, and I really worry about the depth at a lot of positions, especially on the defensive side of the ball, which is crazy to me to say that. I cannot believe the Seahawks, that defense is a weak point of the team right now. But the defensive line and the secondary, you do not know. It's a lot of young players. But it's that they also changed coordinators on the team. They change things around, so it's like it's a new era. It's definitely a new era in the Seattle Seahawks world. And I'm fascinated to see where it goes. I don't want to see this team crumble because I think the league is better when the Seahawks are good. I know that a lot of fan bases are like, God, no, fuck that. Seahawks fans are annoying, whatever. I like the CenturyLink Field, the atmosphere generally. If they can somehow win the division and bring us another Seahawks playoff game, please do. Oh, it's so much fun watching the CenturyLink Field during the playoffs. Or just generally. I just genuinely love that venue. And that'd be nice for them to see. Also, by the way, another note that I don't really talk a lot of special teams during these previews because it doesn't really. It's a big part, and I think this is probably the most I've talked about special teams in this preview because I've talked about the Chargers kicker issues. Well, the Seahawks do too, but guess who they have now? From the Raiders, Sebastian Janikowski is now the kicker of the Seahawks, which is really weird. You think about like guys you've always seen in one particular uniform that you don't picture being in other uniforms. A lot of that, like a lot of associations with the Seahawks, at least with Sherman and Janikowski specifically, going from Seahawks colors to Niners or going from Raiders colors to the Seahawks. You know, it's just weird. Definitely weird uniform changes that you don't really expect, but there you go. But all right, is that it? Did we call it? We're calling it a game here. All right, that's it. Whew! I think it's the first time where I feel like I'm not like I wasn't really pressing for time. I feel like I kind of finished up everything really nicely. That was good. That was a good episode. All right. If you don't think so, that's okay. You can let me know, but just don't be a dick. That's all. If either of these teams make the playoffs, it will be a great playoffs, no matter what. So, I'll look forward to it no matter what. We'll see. And that is our 9th episode. So now we have one more episode that has non-playoff teams from last year, with Lions Ravens, and then we have 6 episodes of talking about all the playoff teams from last year, and that'll be coming out. I'm gonna start recording these things in bulk, so they might get more and more dated. I'm already worried about this one getting dated if like Earl Thomas gets traded within the next 24 hours or so, or something happens with the Chargers. I don't know, but I am very much looking forward to watching both of these teams for various different reasons this year, and for sure one of my favorite preview episodes to date because talking about 2 very interesting teams. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Be good to one another, be kind to one another, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.